Do you know how to maintain your RV batteries? Hey guys, it's Izzy from Endless RVing, the channel that brings you the best in RV DIYs, product reviews, RV tours, and so much more. If you're new to the channel, we invite you to subscribe below and make sure to hit the notification bell. And if you're back for another video, we thank you for joining us. And make sure to stay to the end for some bloopers and a visit from a special guest. So if you own an RV, it's highly likely you're going to have at least one battery on that RV. We have a motorhome. We have 4 batteries. Some motorhomes have 8. These things could get really expensive, but they're really important for the operation of many systems in your RV. And you want to make sure that you maintain them. Otherwise, it could leave you possibly stranded without the electronics in your RV working, or more importantly, you could be out a lot of money. So in this video, we're going to give you 4 easy steps on how to maintain your RV batteries. So here's the disclaimer. This video is going to be specifically for the wet cell batteries, and what I mean is these are the ones that have the liquid in them that allow them to work. You don't really need to maintain your AGM batteries, you don't need to maintain the lithium batteries, but these are the batteries that most often come in stock on RVs. Let me just do some explaining about how these batteries work. There is distilled water in here, and there is an electrolyte solution. That solution is needed for the battery to operate properly. Now, I'm not an engineer, and I don't know all the chemical reactions that go on in there, but basically you need to have liquid in the battery for it to work properly. So the first step to properly maintain your batteries are to keep them charged. Now there's several ways you can do this. You could keep it plugged in to shore power like we do at home. Okay, we're always plugged in, the battery's always charging. When we're going down the road, the generator is more than likely on and the batteries are charging. And then as soon as we get to camp, we're plugged in again and the batteries are charging. They are never allowed to drain out. Now these wet cell batteries, these deep cycle batteries, you can only use them about 50%, okay? They start dropping below like 12.3, 12.2 volts. They start getting into the 11s. You could really damage the cells in the battery, and they're not gonna hold the charge the way they used to, and they're not gonna perform the way they used to. So the obvious question is gonna be, well, I have my RV in storage, and I don't have access to plugging things in. The first option of plugging in doesn't work for you. My second option, which is to put these batteries on a trickle charger, probably not going to work for you either. So if you are in storage and you don't have ability to plug in, there's a couple things you can do, okay? You can use a inline battery disconnect. What that does, it's kind of a manual disconnect, right? If you hit that, it will cut off any power going from that battery to the inside of your coach. There are battery disconnects that come stock, but the reality is there's always more than likely a parasitic drain always happening on the RV. And what I mean is there's certain things that are always powered, right? So like the propane gas detector is always powered. If I left this thing on for extended amount of time, it will drain the batteries. And with these type of batteries, if you drain them again below like that 12 volt mark, they're gonna be shot. They're just not gonna work anymore. Another effective way that's very primitive, but it works, you can just disconnect all the terminals, right? Now, I will warn you, if you have a somewhat complicated battery setup like we do, you might want to take a picture of how all those wires are set up before you do that. I would also suggest that maybe you put down some kind of non-conductive material just in case those wires wind up touching. You don't want any spark displays, so put something in between the contacts and the wires so that way there is no chance of any electricity being conducted. All right, so I have my safety goggles, my gloves, my surgical gear for number 2, which is maintaining the fluid levels of your battery. Like I said earlier, these batteries are wet cells. They need to be maintained. Now what I mean again by wet cells is that there is an electrolyte solution in these batteries that go over the cells. Don't ask me, again, the engineering, but basically you have to make sure there's enough water in these cells, okay? So how do we do that? What we're gonna do is, I do it once every couple of months because we're always plugged in. Maybe that's bad, but so far it's worked out well, okay? You're gonna take a flathead screwdriver, in my case, a Phillips head screwdriver. You're gonna pop the top off, right? Each battery has gonna have 2 of these covers, okay? You can see here I'm pretty good. what you want is the fluid levels to be about 3/4, about a quarter from the top. So 3/4 full, about a quarter from the top. You don't want to fill them to the top, because what happens is that when these things start working, they're being charged, they heat up, they will start bubbling, right? That's normal. But if there's too much fluid in there, the fluid will overflow, right? So not only will you have like sulfuric battery acid coming out, which you don't want, but more importantly is that if that solution escapes, right, the electrolytes are in that solution. It's like when you sweat too much, right? If you sweat too much, you get rid of electrolytes, your muscles don't work right. Well, that battery will start not working right because you can't replace the electrolytes like you can when you sweat too much. You want to make sure that you give it enough room so when it starts heating up and expanding, that your fluid doesn't boil over. How do you refill these? Very easy. Now, you got to put distilled water in there, okay? Do not use tap water. You have to use distilled water. Distilled water, all the minerals and elements are removed. It's just straight up water. Now, you could do the fancy method. They sell battery watering systems, and they have all kind of configurations, and they're just hoses and all kind of contraptions that go in here, and you just pump water into them and it fills them perfectly. I do like the poor man's method. I essentially just do it by hand on the front ones. I pour it in. The back ones, I'll take one battery out, and then I just get a little solo cup and I kind of just pour it in until I feel that it's full enough. But the most important thing, however you choose to do, is you gotta use distilled water. Okay, the third really important thing is to make sure that your connections are clear of corrosion. The only thing you're gonna need is the appropriate socket for whatever size nut you have on your battery, and then some kind of wire brush. Now, they have these fancy ones that are made for batteries. You can put your terminals in there and clean them up, rub whatever corrosion's out. But basically, corrosion's gonna get in the way between your wiring and the contacts of your battery, and you don't want that. You want it to be as clean as possible to have a connection that's as good as possible. So I'm gonna quickly show you on one terminal, although our terminals are pretty clean, but how to clean it up. So I'm going to go on the negative side here, okay? I'm just going to loosen this up. Now, what you want to be careful is that the negative doesn't touch the positive unless you want a spark show. You don't want that to happen, okay? Or whatever tool you have doesn't touch both of them, especially if they are metal. So you can see like it's a little bit, it's really not that dirty, but I'm just going to use the wire. And you can see how it starts cleaning stuff up. Now, that's just like a little bit of crud on there. It's not a big deal. What you want really is if you start seeing like the white like acid, which is not really much here, like this stuff right here, that white stuff, if it starts getting on the terminals, it could be a problem, but you can see how easy that cleans up. These are really good. They're pretty clean. So you just go around the whole thing, you know, clean it up, make sure all the connections are good.
I'm sure everybody's surprised that our stuff is really clean.
Well, yeah, I do, you know, kind of maintain these pretty
Mr.
regularly.
OCD.
But yeah, go and make sure you get all the wiring back correctly, all right? And then you're gonna do the same thing for every connection. Make sure they're all clean. You can see these two have been done. The rest of them haven't been done in a little bit, but they're very clean. All right, the fourth and final thing you're gonna wanna do is you wanna make sure all your connections are on tight. Again, you're gonna use your socket. Just go around periodically, crank them down, okay? Make sure they're tight, because if they're not tight, they're not gonna have a good connection. And when things are in tight, that's when you start getting sparks, and you don't want sparks because you don't want fires and you don't want shorts and all that other good stuff. So just go around periodically, just make sure everything is nice and tight. Not only the connections, but make sure if you have a strap on that's holding your batteries together, make sure that strap is hooked in and tight, right? So when you're going down the road, these things are not moving. So guys, those are 4 easy steps to maintain your RV batteries. You don't have to do it every day. Once every couple of months, I would highly recommend you do that. Definitely once a season. If you do that, those wet cell batteries will definitely last you longer, okay? They can last 3 to 5 years on average. If you can get that, good, because those are like $100 and something each to replace. We plan on, when those are no longer any good, hopefully upgrading to lithium, and then you don't have to do any of this crap. It does it all itself. but they're $900 a pop, and we have 4, right? So anybody Battleborn, if you're watching, you want to send us batteries, we'd be more than welcome to do a video on them. In the comments below, let us know what kind of batteries do you have on your rig. If you have wet cells, what do you got? Uh-oh, we have a visitor.
Do you want to be in the video?
Imagine that thing charge this.
Yeah, that would not be good. Where are the phones? Okay, back to the video.
Right, so in the comments below, if you have wet cell batteries like we do, let us know how you maintain them, if you do anything different. If you have that fancy watering system, which we will put a link below to those watering systems. Did you upgrade to lithium? If you did, I'm jealous. If you know anybody that has an RV, more than likely they have these type of batteries, feel free to share this video with them. We've been doing this now, so this is our 2nd season on this motorhome. These batteries are still really good. They hold, a 13-volt charge, and then we did it on a travel trailer, and that worked really well also. So feel free to share this video with them. To the left of me, I'm gonna put our RV DIY, as well as our RV Essential Upgrade playlist. And for myself and MJ, who's on the camera, we thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you on the road. So here's the disclaimer. There's your alarm.
That's my alarm.
So here's the